Nova here.
Planet Earth, an anomaly in a universe of lifeless rocks. As far as we know, it is the only world that hosts intelligent life. Upon this rock there are countless creatures that live, breathe, and die each day. Let's send them to space.
Remember, Patreon, sign up, get early stuff, updates, and exclusive content. Shout out to Ozzy G-Man, Gladys Marino, Happy Acrid, and Scott Replinger for supporting the channel. Also, thanks to everyone for helping me get over 900 subs. Anywho, the rules are simple. Only use units with animal names in them. Since there aren't as many options for this campaign, I'll be using the Protoss rules here. For instance, Goliaths because of Goliath groupers. The name must be of a species, not an individual animal. SCVs are allowed. If a hero is a unit type that is an animal, it's good. For added challenge, no missile turrets. The run will be done on brutal difficulty. Now, Pi, you may say, how can you do the escape when there's no animal units to control? Well, you see, Nova is an animal. A fish, to be exact. As a side effect of being in space, Salmonova is invisible and can use military-grade firearms. Escaping aboard vultures, my team faces the apex predator of the city, the Warhawk, which has developed the unique adaptation of Kaboom the Zoom. Eventually we bring down the hawk, and the mission ends. Fun fact, Nova salmon are, you guessed it, salmon caught in Nova Scotia. It also refers to how they're cooked, curing and lightly smoking them. It's not to be confused with lox salmon, which is cured but not smoked. For the non-chefs out there, curing is basically preserving meat via drying or salting it. Since both lox and Nova salmon have a buttery taste, it can be difficult to distinguish them, though keep in mind that the former is saltier while the latter is smokier. Next, I set up my zoo in a frozen wasteland, which is currently undergoing the mass extinction event known as getting eaten by bug. While I could use marines on the basis that they relate to marine life, I'd rather hold off on using them for as long as possible. So it's just Salmonova for this mission. To adapt to the hilly terrain, she evolves a jetpack, enabling her to jump up cliffs and patrol the passes more easily. Surprisingly, even on Brutal, Salmonova proves more than capable of defeating the invasive Zerg ravagers, banelings, and defilers that rampage across the planet's surface. The apex predator of the area is the Brutalisk, which has once again developed the unique adaptation of being slow as hell, allowing me and my allies to whittle it down. Using my expert tactic of spamming food to distract the enemy, I buy enough time to escape, and the mission ends. Now it's back to boring old city. This city being a wasteland overrun with spiky bugs, mind you. Alongside Salmonova, I also get access to Hellbats. As a side effect of being in space, they can't fly, but can use flamethrowers. Must be Australian. Anywho, using packs of Hellbats for defense, I use Salmonova to clear each of the nesting sites before the native mutas and guardians start flocking to my base. Salmonova also evolves a new adaptation called Kaboom the City. Now, some might say it's unethical to be using fish to nuke spiky bugs. But this is space and there's no time for silly little things like rules of war or environmentalism. I do have to use Marines, Reapers, and Marauders to fill the nesting sites, but otherwise, Salmonova and the Hellbats take care of everything else.
You're a coward. You know that?
Fun fact, vampire bats are the only blood-eating bats. The common vampire bat gathers in agricultural areas using chickens, pigs, and cattle for food, while other species will live in forests and rely on the native birds and reptiles. The common variant is the only one capable of taking off from the ground by using its long thumbs to leap into the air. Contrary to the usual image of a vampire biting directly into a victim to feed, these bats make small incisions with their teeth instead. The bats then lick the blood that flows from the wound. To prevent clotting, their saliva has an anticoagulant, a chemical that anti-coagulant. Now, the main concern about vampire bats is not that you'll turn into a vampire, rather that you'll catch diseases such as rabies from them. Of course, rabies bat is neither catchy nor specific, so the vampire shtick remains. Afterwards, I test my pack's viability at a beachside resort. This beachside resort being a war zone between an inefficient monarchy, rebels, spiky bugs, and alien cultists. Due to the high number of airborne threats in this mission, I finally give in and start gathering Goliath groupers and Marines. As a side effect of being in space, the Goliaths can't swim but are capable of operating advanced military mech suits. The apex predator of the map is the Mothership, a powerful creature with the unique adaptation of making me feel things I shouldn't be feeling right now.
Impress me.
Using Nova and the Goliath fish to push, I take out the 4 watering holes around the map, causing the Mothership to die of thirst. Fun fact, the Pacific Goliath grouper inhabits underwater caves, lagoons, estuaries, and bays. They reach up to 8 feet and 2 inches in length and 700 pounds weight-wise. They are fairly territorial and mainly feed on crustaceans, lobsters, sea turtles, stingrays, and other small fish. Now one might say it's unethical to be sending animals onto a planet of drugs and bugs, but this is space and there's no time for ridiculous concepts like warmth or hugs. My shipment of ravens arrives, and as a side effect of being in space, they can also birth spiders. Must be Australian. I need to harvest drugs from 6 whales around the map. To fight through the native hospital patients, I push with Salmonova while raining nukes all over the landscape to make it even more uninhabitable.
Just get us out when this is over.
Oh, you'll get out. No, actually, I'm sparing them this time. They're war pigs. These Hercs, on the other hand. Whenever the native Tal'Darim try to destroy a device, I also make sure to drop nukes on top of them as well. As Sun Tzu says, they can't get the drugs if I nuke the bugs. To defend the devices, I set up fields of spiders supported by ravens, Goliath groupers, hellbats, and marines. Despite heavy attacks by the natives, I get all 6 drugs, and the mission ends. Fun fact, wild ravens can live from 15 to 22 years. They face few threats and consequently are of least concern status. While it is estimated that there are over 8.7 million ravens globally, this number has been deemed inaccurate. Regardless, over the last 40 years, their numbers have increased several hundred times over. You may have seen a clip of a spider exploding into several tiny spiders after dying. This is because the spider in question was a female wolf spider, who carries her eggs in a silk sac on her back until they hatch. Thus, the spiders in question were likely ready to hatch, or released as a result of their mother being crushed. The good news is that beyond some pain and itchiness, they aren't deadly to humans. And of course, they're Australian too. It's back to boring old city again. Well, a city that's overrun with spiky bugs, mind you. Anywho, Salmonova needs to destroy the entire ecosystem of the native Zerg population by taking out several keystone species in the area. In the meantime, the native Zerg repeatedly send packs against my nest. To defend, I build up lines of spiders with my ravens, while also creating symbiotic bonds between my marines and bunkers. For added defense, I once again get out some Goliath groupers as well. After driving each species to extinction, I bring about a total ecosystem collapse of the region. And the mission ends. Fun fact, keystone species are any species that serve as keystones in an ecosystem. Consequently, their extinction could lead to drastic changes or even a collapse of said ecosystem. There are 3 major types of keystone species. These include predators, ecosystem engineers, and mutualists. Predators control the population of prey species by, well, eating them. When the gray wolves of Yellowstone were depleted by overhunting in the 20s, the herbivore population exploded and vegetation suffered as a result. It was only after reintroducing wolves to the area that both plants and beavers recovered. Ecosystem engineers engineer the ecosystem. For instance, by building dams with old or dead trees, beavers encourage new trees to grow and divert water to create wetlands. Finally, mutualists benefit with other species mutually. By collecting nectar and pollen for food, bears help plant growth and fertilization by pooping. Next, I send Salmonova to arrest Davis. Now, some might say using fish to arrest a high-ranking general is unethical, but this is space and there's no time for silly little things like procedure or law. Anywho, using a mix of flashbangs and my trusty plasma gun, I stun and burn my way through the sewers, and even take control of the native Thor shrimp while I'm at it. After eating my buddy Stone, I arrest Davis, and the mission ends. Now it's back to boring old city. This city being a war zone between an inefficient monarchy and a Protoss drug cult. The Tal'Darim are currently trying to enact a mass extinction event known as Kaboom the Planet. To defend the native Terrans, I gather my pack of Goliath groupers and Marines, while also using the native Gorgons to devour the invaders.
But Pi, Gorgons aren't animals.
Well, actually, they're not, but they're plants, so close enough. As a side effect of being in space, these water lilies can apparently fly and shoot lasers. Anywho, the apex predator of the map is the Mothership, a powerful creature with the unique adaptation of making me feel things I really shouldn't feel right now.
My will is iron.
With such heavy attacks, the outer defenses and even the Dominion nest are overrun. I'm left with little choice but to gather my remaining pack members at my base, allowing my allies to be devoured. Using my expert tactic of spamming broken units, my water lilies devour the remaining Tal'Darim, and I finish off the Mothership with my fish, ending the mission. Fun fact, the Uriel foxnut or Gorgon plant is a type of water lily. It has sharp spines on its stems and leaves, the latter of which is dark green with purple veins. The plant can spread about 15 feet and prefers still water, but can be grown in soil. Producing starchy white seeds, it serves as a food source in China and India and can be used as popcorn or pudding called kheer. It's back to space for this last one. I need to protect the native water lily population from the evil Xanthos, a powerful sea snail with the unique adaptation of get good at micro scrub. As a side effect of being in space, it can apparently fly and utilize military-grade railguns, missile launchers, fighter ships, and a flamethrower, possibly Australian. To counter this, I build up a flock of battlecruisers.
But Pi, battlecruisers aren't animals.
Ah, but they have the word cruiser in them. Cruiser is a type of butterfly. As a side effect of being in space, they can shoot lasers and teleport. Definitely Australian. To defend the Gorgon water lilies, I use my expert tactic of spamming Amadeus to devour part of the Xanthos snail, while also teleporting out of the stupid missile attacks. Eventually, I throw caution to the wind, scan Davis's main nest, and teleport my flock of butterflies on top of her snail, devouring it and ending the mission before my nest is overrun. Fun facts: the cruiser butterfly is native to New Guinea and Queensland, Australia. Their larvae feed on passion flowers, while the adults rely on nectar. They gather in areas with moist or wet soil, drawing nutrients in a process known as mud puddling. The Xanthos snail, there's not much info online, but it looks like a cone. Also, it's native to the Loyalty and Kermadec Islands, as well as New Caledonia.
November Terra. I knew your family when you were a child.
That's it. Now you die.
Or is this a challenge? Imagine how much better you could be if you channeled your efforts into actually fighting.
Once shot, center mass. Enjoy these last few moments.
You're not good at this, are you?
Ready to have your mind blown?
Oh dear, a pitiful display.
I never fail to impress.
Oh, it's you. Still failing, I see.
So can you almost? SCVs aside, enemy intelligence does force me to use Reapers to fill the garrisons. As someone pointed out, Marauders could have been used in this campaign since Marauder ants are a thing. I didn't know that till I finished most of the run though. Fun fact, they're omnivores feeding on insects and nectar. They tend to form long lines for foraging, using pheromones to make trails. They're often compared to army ants, but are differentiated due to having permanent nests and having multiple queens, as many as 16. So how many missions can be done with animal units? In total, 8 out of 9 missions can be done using animal units, either normal or hero. Looking back on the Zookeeper series, how many missions can be done with animal units alone? For Wings of Liberty, 22 out of 29 missions can be done with animal units. For Art of the Swarm, it's 17 out of 20. For Evolution missions, it's 2 out of 7. For Legacy of the Void, it's 21 out of 25. And Nova Covert Ops is 8 out of 9 missions. So in total, 68 out of 90 missions can be done using animal units. Remember, Patronizer. Shoutouts again to Aussie G-Man, Gladys Marino, Happy Acrid, and Scott Replinger. That's it for this series. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and use gun-wielding fish to arrest high-ranking military officials.